All right, what is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to the KC Sports Report. Michael Darcy, your host here as always, and today I have the luxury of being joined by my friend Blake Schneiders in studio at 810 Sports Radio. And today we're going to talk about Orlando Brown Jr. and everything surrounding that whole scenario. And Blake, it's been a while since we've caught up with each other, but what do you think about this whole Orlando Brown situation? Do you think it's a good thing, a bad thing that he got tagged, or what do you think is going to happen in general?
Well, I don't think the overall situation is a great thing. The fact that he got tagged and the fact that the Chiefs and Orlando Brown couldn't come to a deal before giving him a tag definitely hurts the cap space for the Chiefs. And I believe, if I'm listening to Tim Grunhart correctly, it actually puts the Chiefs over the cap space. So that means a lot of players that we might have hoped could have restructured or kept probably going to have to go. Frank Clark, you're probably gone.
He better be gone
Tyrann
whether
Mathieu?
or not you sign him or not.
Tyrann Mathieu, now you're probably gone too.
He's gone.
Charvarius Ward, you might be gone, unfortunately. I don't know how the free agent market is going to treat Charvarius Ward. I'm assuming probably pretty well, but I don't know that. I hope everybody gets the bag of money that they want. If I was Charvarius, I'd still want to stay in Kansas City, get myself another Super Bowl. But that's just me. Maybe he's like, I got my Super Bowl ring, now I want my bag. Because I guarantee there is a team out there that will pay Charvarius Ward. So,
of course,
this definitely hurts the Chiefs in their scenario. Now, the reason that it could help them is if they decide to, hey, go before that July 15th tag sets in, if we can go ahead and reach a deal. The other thing that could happen is they might not reach a deal, and all of a sudden, Orlando Brown, and I think you were alluding to this, could hold out for a year. Is that what your argument was?
Well, we're going to get to it because I really quickly I want to go over the details of the whole Orlando Brown Jr. thing. So on Monday afternoon, the Chiefs decided to place the franchise tag on him, and that would mean in 2022, if he does sign the tag, he would make $16.5 million. Now, if you guys remember, when we traded for him from Baltimore, a big reason that we got him in the first place is because he did not want to play under the franchise tag that the Ravens thought about putting on him. So the fact that we were able to trade for him with the potential promise of a long-term contract, that's why he came here. I mean, for other reasons too. He wanted to play left tackle, and the Ravens didn't want to let him play left tackle. But I think when you look at it like this, Orlando Brown Jr. wants to be in Kansas City. I think it's pretty obvious. Him and Pat are really good friends. He's one of the I think, is it the groomsmen at his wedding? He's up there. Like, Orlando Brown Jr. is buddy with Pat. And that's a good thing. You want that with your left tackle and your quarterback. But I also think that the big reason that he wanted to play left tackle in the league is because these contracts are so lucrative. Like, left tackles make the most money out of anybody on the offensive line, and as they should.
It's the most important position.
It's the most important position.
Also, I think there's another connection with his dad played left tackle. So there's there is a contract aspect and a kind of a prophecy fulfillment aspect as well.
And I think that's completely fair. And we'll talk about his play on the field because I'm not as high on him as you are, but I think that it would not be out of the realm of possibilities for him to not report to training camp if we don't extend him. That's what my concern is, because he's made it very clear he wants that long-term security. And I think the Chiefs are working at getting him that, but they might not come to a deal. Like, you don't know. Because Orlando Brown Jr., as of right now, does not have an agent. He is the only guy that is representing himself, and that could be an issue when discussing how much he's going to get paid. Because you know how Orlando Brown Jr., he's probably going to obviously think of himself in a highlight, as he probably should, but he's also going to be the final say as to whether or not he's going to take a contract extension that might not be as much as he thought. Like, I think Orlando Brown Jr. thinks he's worth a lot on the open market, and the Chiefs might not have that same vision, especially coming off of a 2021 season where, he wasn't bad, but at times he just looked outclassed, and he just wasn't the guy that, a lot of people thought that he could be. I thought he was going to be a top 5 left tackle in football. I don't think he's a bad left tackle. I think he's average. I think he's average to slightly above average, and he's probably going to get better, and that's why the Chiefs are probably going to invest in him. But I don't think that Orlando Brown Jr. was special last year at left tackle.
I think you're right on the aspect that Orlando Brown Jr. was touted as somebody who could potentially be a Pro Bowler, an All-Pro, going to be the staple for Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes going forward for the next, I don't know how many years. 5
to 7.
7, 10 possibly. It depends on how long he wants to play. But when you look at it, you're not wrong. Basically, where a couple different things have had him. PFF ranked him at about 17, which is dead middle. Which is
Well, that's not dead middle. That's too below average. If we're counting from, because there's how many left tackles in the game of football?
it's 32.
There's 32. So I guess that would be around average. I apologize.
Yes. I was gonna say we're doing math here, buddy.
Well, it's one below average if we are.
But they've ranked him at this, but at the same time, you have to understand, Orlando Brown is switching a position where he only played a handful of games in his previous season due to injury on the Ravens. He's also coming to a new team, a brand new quarterback with a completely different style of play. They were a run-dominant heavy team, and he's very good in the run game.
He is. I will give him credit there. He's very good in the running game.
He then comes over to a brand new offense in Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. One, that's hard to learn for anybody in the league. I don't care who you are. Two, Patrick Mahomes is notorious, and we saw this early on with the first couple games with Orlando Brown Jr. Pat is notorious for being a 15-yard dropper when he drops back in the pocket. Orlando Brown is not used to that. So he gave up a couple sacks early in the year because he wasn't understanding on how Pat's movement worked. Now, he gave up 4 sacks on the year, and he only had 7 penalties. I think 2 of those sacks were really a combo of him and Pat not being on the same page with really how that drop back works, how that offensive line is supposed to fan out, and really understand how that pocket is supposed to be built for Pat. Because it's not built for Pat like it is for Lamar Jackson. Very different pockets, vastly different game plans. So I see why the gameplay of Orlando Brown Jr. was a little bit shaky at first. I think he tightened up a lot of things as he got better. His feet weren't very good at first, especially at left tackle. You got to have some nimble feet. His feet weren't very good. That has progressed throughout the season, and I thought they looked pretty good at the end of the year. Are they amazing? No, but when you start from the bottom, you have to have progress, and he had a ton of progress.
Yeah, I mean, he had a lot of progress, and I said this with Josh Fan. I do think that he progressed as the year went along, but I also don't think that he was spectacular by any means. He was all right. Like I said, I'm not saying he was bad.
Yeah.
I'm just not saying he was that good. Now, I think he just falls somewhere in between, and as PFF said, he's 17. So
Yes.
I think that's
really dead middle.
I think that's fair, and he's going to get better. I think that's going to be the case. But what I'm saying is I think there's a good chance that Orlando Brown Jr. does not play under the franchise tag because he knows how desperate the Chiefs are. Like, the Chiefs traded a first-round draft pick to acquire him, and he was told basically, you're going to get a long-term extension. That's what we're going to do to you. And I think that, he's still waiting on it. And that might be enough of a reason for him not to report to training camp. I think he will not report to training camp unless he has a contract extension inked down. He's not going to play a single down in Kansas City unless he's locked up for the next 3 to 5 years. It's probably going to be 5 to 7 years, honestly.
Yeah, I would assume. I'm assuming it's probably going to be at a minimum a 5-year contract. The problem that I have is, you are right. The Chiefs don't have a better option at left tackle. Now,
it's not just that they don't have a better option. It's the asset that they gave up to get him.
exactly.
That's
you
why
need a
they're
return
tied.
on that. You need a return on that. Now, we did see Joe Thuney pop out at left tackle.
He looked
this
better
year,
than Orlando Brown
and he
Jr.
looked pretty damn good. And I'll tell you this: you said there's nobody to replace replace Orlando Brown. I kind of beg to differ.
I mean, I would love Joe Thuney
I
to
think
play
that
left
Joe Thuney
tackle.
could. Now, would I want him to? No, I loved him at guard. Him, Creed, and Trey are the rock solid cement interior line that you need. Those 3 are absolutely studs. But to say that he's unreplaceable, especially with people that the Chiefs have, I could see them doing something else with Joe Thuney. He is versatile, and we saw him play pretty damn well at left tackle.
For one game.
For one game. Now, that's a small sample size. And again, I don't imagine that actually happening.
They signed him to be the left guard.
For you to say they don't have somebody to replace him with, I'm like, I don't know.
I mean, I think if they have to move Joe Thuney from left guard to left tackle because
Yes.
Orlando Brown's not going to play, I think that's a big problem.
No, I agree. That is an issue because, like you said, what you gave up to get Orlando Brown and bringing him in, and then for him not to play. Now, I think it would be absolutely ridiculous for Orlando Brown, tongue-tied, not to play. What you're doing and what you're saying is one of the top teams in the NFL who desperately needs you doesn't think you are worth what you're saying you're worth.
If they desperately need him, then why wouldn't they extend him?
I get this because they can't meet on a number.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to spend so much money on a left tackle. It's gonna it's going to cut into and jeopardize anything else they're trying to do. Because right now, the Chiefs are in a window where they're trying to go back to the Super Bowl again next year. I know that's, to anybody else, to go back, to be on the doorstep of the Super Bowl 4 straight years sounds insane. But with what the Chiefs have going on, they really do have that amount of talent. And what they could do is they could say, hey, if we can meet on a solid number somehow, then we can also bring in other guys and get an actual championship. Don't you want to be a part of a winning team? Orlando Brown doesn't have a Super Bowl ring. He's not going down in the record books of anything right now. Right now, his career needs a Super Bowl. Now, I get he also needs a bag. He needs a big old bag with a giant dollar sign on it, and I get that.
Well, his representative said that he wants to be an All-Pro, a Pro Bowler. He wants to be one of the best left tackles in the game. He also kind of sneaked in there that he wants to be the highest paid left tackle in the game, and he wants to be a Super Bowl champion. Now, that's all great and all. I think he wants to be the highest paid left tackle in the game. That's a big red flag, especially because he represents himself. He doesn't have an agent to say, Orlando, this is the best we can do. Take this. Mm-hmm. Orlando Brown Jr. might be a little bit too over his head when it comes to what he's worth.
I think what he's worth right now and what he believes his potential is are on two very different planes. I do believe that he is very good. If I was him, I hope the Chiefs can come to a conclusion.
I think that they will. I
hope they do. But it would be so astronomically stupid for him to sit out a season. Let's just say they offered a franchise tag to him. What is it? It's 16.6?
It's 16.5.
16.5. And for him to not, let's say he said, I'm not going to come to training camp because you guys haven't given me a deal, which means I'm going to deny the franchise tag and I will make zero money this year. One, you think you want a big bag, but yet you're going to sit out on $16.6 million for one season? To me, that's an issue. Two, the Chiefs have clearly, with doing the tag, say, hey, we might not be able to come to an agreement now, but if you prove yourself this year and we're going to give you a shit ton of money to do a 1-year prove-it deal, then we'll break the bank on your next contract.
But you know what?
How many players have done that successfully?
But in theory, that sounds great, but I could argue that was last year. Because usually, like they did with Frank Clark, they traded for him and they gave him a ton of money. They gave him $100 million before he ever even played a snap in Kansas City.
And they learned from that mistake.
Exactly. And so they used 2021 as kind of just a test run with Orlando Brown Jr.
In which we agreed he was good,
average, slightly
good.
above average. He was a good left tackle.
In the Chiefs' mind, hey, you're not quite there yet. In his mind, I'm an All-Pro, want to be one of the highest paid.
But that's why I don't think that he would report to training camp, because in his mind, he played in that test run, showed them what he could do, and he kind of showed that he's only going to get better. And I think that's why he'd be like, I'm not gonna play under this tag.
It makes no sense, because here's the deal: if you don't report, then you're sitting out another year of your career when you're in your prime. Okay, that's kind of a giant red flag. If your whole argument was about I want to get paid, dude, you're gonna get paid $16.5 million, and then if the tag runs out and the Chiefs don't want to sign you and yet you believe you've proved your deal, somebody's going to pay you. Now, not only do you have a new contract, you also have an extra $16.5 for 1 year.
Here's what I think he wants. He wants the long-term stability. I think he sees the $16.5 million and says, that's nice. That's more money that I've made, I think, in his career up until this point. But you got to look at it from a offensive lineman perspective. They don't play that long. And so a year of Orlando Brown, he'd play 2 years in Kansas City.
So he's going to sit one out.
But no, he would have a better chance sitting it out, not getting hurt, because if he gets hurt, let's say he tears his ACL or has a really gruesome knee injury, he's not going to get paid.
Then you made $16.5 million and you'll never play again. Cool.
But why would he do that when he could sit out until they pay him?
Because if you sit, I just think you look worse. If you're going to sit out, you're not going to be in shape when you come back immediately. You're going to still work out, but then you're not. If you sit out, you're not getting signed by the Chiefs. That's for damn sure. Now you're going to have to go to a totally new team with a brand new quarterback in a system you could have already had 2 years deep in. You're going to have to learn a whole new playbook system. You're setting yourself back even farther if you sit out, because you're not going to get re-signed to the team that you sat out from.
But that's why I think he has all the leverage. Because he knows the Chiefs. He knows the Chiefs are forced to pay him. If Orlando Brown Jr. came out, let's say tomorrow, and he's like, guys, I'm not signing this tag. You're going to pay me. I have proven that I am a quality left tackle in this league, and I want to be compensated as such. And I think he's got all the right in the world to do that, and I don't think it's a great look. but I also understand from a business perspective, I have been playing for little to nothing and now have that opportunity to not only make this monstrous sum of money, but to get that guarantee for the monstrous sum of money for 3 and 4 and 5 years down the line. That's what he sees. And I understand that.
I see it. I think the Chiefs do have depth at offensive line. They really do.
I agree.
We've seen Wiley play right tackle. We've seen, I think, Allegretti at one point stepped in a tackle. We've seen Tooney. No, we haven't. We have Niang that can slide over to left if you want. I understand that left tackle is an issue. But the Chiefs have such a solid line everywhere but left tackle. They can make something work. At the end of the day, and again, I don't think they want to. This is purely Blake talking. This is not me claiming this is what the Chiefs are gonna do. Like, no. This is just saying I truly believe the depth, and I know they're gonna go out and get somebody in free agency as well as in the draft. I guarantee there's gonna be some linemen that they find maybe in the later rounds. Probably they should be focusing on edge, corner,
wide receiver too,
wide
safety.
receiver probably, safety. It just depends. It depends on what they go out and get in free agency is going to be the real question. But I think the Chiefs are better off, even if he didn't get signed. They're going to be better off than if he decides to sit out. I'm not saying they're better off without Orlando Brown, but they will be in a better position, I think, themselves than if Orlando in his career decides to sit out a year. I think that's a worse career decision for him than possibly a season decision for the Chiefs.
And I want to clarify this really quickly. I think he's going to get signed.
I think he will too.
Because Brett Veach said it's a priority, and the reason that you put a franchise tag on a player is to make sure they don't hit free agency.
Exactly. It extends your chance to actually to talk to them and negotiate.
But it almost makes you wonder, they didn't come to an agreement with Tyrann Mathieu. That's kind of...
and that's an issue.
Well, but that's not... I don't think they want Tyrann Mathieu back.
I don't think... I agree.
But I think they want Orlando Brown Jr. back, and that's almost like, well, why haven't you come to an agreement then? Almost like Orlando Brown Jr. thinks that he's worth more than he actually is. And I'm going to tell you this right now. If we gave $22 million to Orlando Brown Jr. over the next 5 years, I would throw a brick through a window. $22 million for a guy that you could maybe pay 17 to 18, I would be pissed off. Because he's not... I think Trent Williams, who is getting paid the highest out of any left tackle, is making like 26. I don't quote me on that, but if he was to get paid, I think the $20 million or something that is projected, he would be among the top 5 highest paid left tackles in the game of football. He doesn't deserve to get paid like a top 5. He's going to get paid compensated well. Not yet. You're banking on him.
Could have a franchise year to prove it though.
Yeah, I mean, I have a really hard time thinking that he's just going to play under the franchise tag.
Yeah. We're just laying out, and as we kind of wrap this up, we're just laying out the different scenarios of how we both see this thing going different directions. If they don't decide, I hope to God they come.
Oh,
to
me
something.
too.
And I have about a 87%. Likelihood
87?
that it's going to happen. Yeah. I don't want to go into the 90s. I think it's 87. I think Orlando Brown can be stubborn, but I also think at the end of the day, Pat, with his relationships that he builds with these guys, he's going to be able to kind of maybe play intermediary, maybe not. I don't know. But Brett Veach is also a very smart guy. He's not going to just let Orlando Brown walk.
Oh, yeah. I think at this point you're too far in the hole.
Yeah.
You've already invested
the first round pick. You got to eventually break down, but this is part of negotiating.
But that's what concerns me, because Brett Veach is like, oh, shoot. We traded for Orlando Brown Jr. We gave up all these assets, and we're going to have to pay him, and we're kind of at the mercy of what he wants. And I think he's been all right. He's been solid, but I don't want to pay him like a top 3 left tackle in the NFL. That's my problem, and I think that if they don't come to an agreement by like training camp or before then, I don't think he's going to report. And I think training camp is too far away. I don't think he would report to offseason OTAs if he doesn't have a deal done.
No, yeah, he won't.
Like, why would he?
He wouldn't. I know he wouldn't.
He shouldn't.
Because at that point, you still have to at least get a little bit of fear into the hearts of the Chiefs and be like, hey, are you sure you want to go down this road?
I don't think he's signing that franchise tag.
No, I think they're going to come to an agreement at some point.
But
that's our job. Speculation.
Yeah. I don't know why. I was listening to the program today with Soren Petro, and they were talking about his representation, which is him and some other mentor, and it just kind of got me going on this topic because it's really interesting. Like, oh, what if this happens? And, why haven't they come to a deal yet? And, if they were talking and they were being so aggressive, why hasn't anything materialized? And I don't know, it just kind of made my conspiratorial mind go. And I think it's a very strong possibility that everything that we said in this video could come true if they don't pay him. And I think that's a strong possibility. But with that being said, Blake, it's been an honor and a privilege to have you on.
Always a pleasure, buddy.
Where can the people find you?
They can find me at my house. My address is you can find me on Twitter at Wake capital N Blake 29. That's Wake and Blake 29. And you can always catch me on the KC Sports Report with this fine young gentleman, Darce Choke, Michael Darcy himself, always giving out great content to the people, by the people, for the people.
Blake always gives me crap because I'm younger than everyone else, and I'm glad that I'm finally using my youth to advantage and dominating the airwaves of YouTube.
Dominating.
I would say that.
The airwaves, for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, you guys can follow me on Instagram. That is KC_Sports Report. Twitter is at KC Sports Report. Go check out Lucas Murphy's work on KCSportsReport.com. I also do stuff over there. It's my damn website, but he's been killing it on there, producing content almost every single day. So go read some of the articles over there. With that being said, guys, I appreciate you for listening to this video, and thanks for watching.